Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yassir li emri. Vahlul ukdeten min lisani yafqahu qawli. Inshallah, we will start 17th word. This is 17th chapter of the book, The Words. Last week we concluded the 16th word, and the 17th word is actually a very interesting topic. It's about the death and how it fits into the rest of the reality or rest of the qualities that we observe in the reality. So let's start, inshallah, since this is the first week of the 17th word. I guess there is nothing to say at the beginning. Any comments before we start? So, Yusuf, do you want to read it for us?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Where should we start this stuff? Just so that we don't.
So I can stop sociality maybe until the first.
Okay.
The 17th word, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. That which is on earth we have made as a glittering show for the earth, in order that we may test them as to which of them are best in conduct. Verily, what is on earth we shall make but as dust and dry soil. What is the life of this world but play and amusement? This word consists of two elevated stations and one brilliant addendum. The all-compassionate Creator, the munificent Provider, the all-wise Maker, made this world in the form of a festival and celebration for the world of spirits and spirit beings. Adorning it with the wondrous embroideries of all His names, He clothes each spirit, great or small, elevated or lowly, in a body decked out with senses, suitable to it and appropriate for benefiting from the innumerable various good things and bounties in the festival. He gives each a corporeal being and sends it to the spectacle once. And He divides the festival, which is most extensive in regard to both time and space, into centuries, years, seasons, and even days, and their parts, and makes them all exalted festivals in the form of parades for all the groups of His creatures with spirits, and for His plant and vegetable artifacts. Especially the phase of the earth in spring and summer, it's a series of festivals for the groups of small beings so glittering, it draws the gazes of the spirit beings and angels and the dwellers of the heavens in the high levels of the world. For those who think and contemplate, it's a place for reflection so wonderful, the mind is powerless to describe it. But in the face of the manifestations of the divine names of Most Merciful and Giver of Life in this divine feast and Dominical festival, the names of Subduer and Dealer of Death appear with death and separation. And this is apparently unconformable with the all-embracing mercy of my mercy encompasses all things. However, in reality, there are several ways in which it is conformable, and one of these is as follows. After each group of beings has completed its turn in the parade, and the desired results have been obtained from it, in a compassionate way, the most generous Maker and compassionate Creator makes most of them feel weariness and disgust with the world, and bestows on them a desire for rest and a longing to migrate to another world. And when they are to be discharged from their duties of life, He awakens in their spirits a compelling desire for their original home. Moreover, it's not far from the infinite mercy of the Most Merciful that, just as He bestows the rank of martyrdom on a soldier who perishes on account of his duty while fighting, and rewards a sheep slaughtered as a sacrifice by giving it an eternal corporeal existence in the hereafter, and the rank of being a mount for its owner on the bridge of Sirat, like Burak, so too with other animals and beings with spirits who perish while performing the dominical duties peculiar to their natures and in obeying the divine commands, and who suffer severe distress, it is not unlikely that there should be for them in the exhaustible treasuries of His mercy a sort of spiritual reward and kind of wage suitable to their capacities, and that they should not be unduly troubled and at departing this world, indeed, that they should be pleased. None knows the unseen save God. However, although man, the noblest of beings with spirits, and the one who benefits most from the festivals with regard to both quality and quantity, is captivated by the world and absorbed in it, as a work of mercy, the most merciful induces in him a state of mind whereby he feels disgust at the world and a longing to travel to the eternal realm. A person whose humanity is not plunged in misguidance profits from that state of mind and departs with a tranquil heart. Now, by way of example, we shall explain 5 of the aspects which produce that state of mind.
So, does anyone want to clarify the issue here?
What issue?
At the beginning, he talks about the life looks like at the first sight, life looks like a festival. Everything is great, but then there's death. So how do you explain this? So, do you want to elaborate what he's trying to solve?
Summarizing the problem?
Yes. Because I guess he's raising an issue and then resolving it.
Isn't it summarizing the verses that he quoted?
At the beginning?
At the very first two verses.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, that which is on earth we have made as a glittering show for the earth, in order that we may test them as to which of them are best in conduct. Verily, what is on earth we shall make but as dust and dry soil. What is the life of this world but play and amusement? I don't see how this is related to the problem. I mean, this can be the solution, part of the solution, but maybe I'm missing something. Sorry.
That which is on earth we have made as a glittering show for the earth, in order that we may test them as to which of them are the best in combat. Verily, what is on earth we shall make but as dust and dry soil. So isn't that like the contribution that we were referring to? Isn't that in the verse itself?
Right.
And what is the life of this world but play and amusement?
Yes. Okay.
So you see the same, in a way, like the contradictory nature of the universe explaining in those verses.
Yes, he starts with, in the Quran, it says, we have made as a glittering show for the earth. And then he says, what is on earth we shall make but as dust and dry soil. As if he's giving something nice, we give pleasure, and then take it away.
But when we were reading the verses, like what was the first thing came to the mind? Like, for example, when he says we have made as glittering show for the earth, what is the life of the world but play and amusement? What was the first thing like came to your mind, for example?
My mind?
Yeah, putting you on the spot.
Well,
What did you think that verse is referring to?
So what I thought, now thinking, I guess it's a little biased because how I thought about these verses. What comes to my mind is like we make the earth as a playground. It's not real. We just will test them. it seems good, but it's not good. These kind of things. So when, for instance, she talks about the glittering shove, because I'm biased towards like denying the worldly things, I take it as glittering shove as like it looks like how to say shiny, but it's used as own words. That's what I do. Actually, there's a good example. Last week, Tony forgot his watch here, like our watch. And I sent him a message saying that I'll take you for the gift. It's a beautiful watch.
I will keep it.
I will keep it. Today he replied, like after a week, he said, "Oh, you want to take a watch which is not even working, it's out of battery. I would take it, just throw it away," he said. And then I look at the watch and it was not working. I didn't realize it before. I told him that I didn't even realize before that it was not working. He said, "Oh, this is the, I guess, default human nature, taken away by the beauty, not even looking if it is working or not." So yeah, that's what it reminds me when I read it. Like being deceived by the beauty. But when I read the text, he's definitely talking something else.
Like the reason why I asked this question, when I read it, like the first thing came to my mind, like living, let's say like in a nutshell, living American dream. Like having a boat on the sea, like having the like luxurious cars, living in a mansion. Like in my mind, that's what it meant. But in the text, it's kind of enlarged the meaning. The verses may include that as well, but Nursi didn't just like narrow it down to just those specifics. In another verse, he took it more like an universal or existential level. The reason why I said that, I personally find myself like making that mistake all the time. Like we say that like Quran is the interpretation of the universe. But when I read it, I don't really read that with that mindset. I always forget that. So I don't read the Quran as an interpretation of the existence. It seems like Nursi never misses that point.
Yusuf, do you want to take the lead and start?
I'm still trying to see how the author, if I'm going to take it in just saying that author has something in his mind and just pick some verses as a cover-up story. This is why he is starting with those stories and just trying to sound more authoritative. This is why the verses are there. I can take it. But instead, if these verses are, whatever comes later on is an interpretation of those verses, then I would like to stop at the first verse a little bit. So I'm going to read the Arabic of the verse. The translation was a little bit puzzling, because in there it says, that which is on earth, we have made as a glittering show for the earth. Not for the men, for example, for the earth. In the translation, this is how it is said. In order that we may test them as to which of them are best in conduct. And apparently the first paragraph is an interpretation of this verse, for the most part. And the Arabic is إِنَّا جَعَلْنَا مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا لِنَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So I guess this مَا عَلَى الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا, this laha part is being translated as for the earth. And this zina, is brought to earth for the earth. This is
what's laha like as a word, like literal meaning?
Refers back to the thing itself. Zinatan, for it. Laha, for it. Huh? Referring to earth. So ha is earth in here, right? Mm-hmm. So why is it like نَجَعَلْنَا مَعَ الْأَرْضِ زِينَةً لَهَا? So whatever on earth, he bestowed them for the beautification of the earth. And what is the author extracting from here? And when I ask this question also, I'm thinking of the distinction that author has made previously between Sama and Ard, and earth in here not exclusively meaning the globe, but the aspect of the beings that looks to themselves in the first place.
Should be like instead of earth, like
Ard, you can use Ard.
or dunya. Would it be the same?
Ard makes more sense, I guess, because when he compares Sama and Ard, he makes use of Ard in there, and in this verse it's also being mentioned as Ard. So the aspect of things that one can take in the horizontal level. So the Ard aspect of this text is, for example, the letters and the ink, but the Sama aspect, as we were studying in the 15th word, Sama aspect of this text would be the way that it refers to the author, which is the meaning. So now reading it in those lines, Creator is saying that if now I'm going to take it in the metaphor of text, for example, and let's imagine a text which is written with beautification, either through balagha, I mean, nice wordings, or with nice calligraphy. There is some sort of a, let's say, beautification in the text. And the author is saying that we have adorned or beautified the text so that in order that we may test them as to which of them are best in conduct. So the readers of the text is being tested with the beautification of the text, sort of. But I mean, we don't have to dig too much this part, but I'm just trying to see how the author, if, I mean, the next part is an interpretation, a direct interpretation of this verse, and apparently this is the only relevant one. In the beginning 3 verses, this one seems to be the most relevant one for the first paragraph. I'm trying to see how, where he is starting from. What is his motivation for interpreting this verse in that way? This being said, shall I reread the first paragraph again?
Yes, please. We can discuss because I have some questions. Okay.
The all-compassionate Creator, the munificent Provider, the all-wise Maker, made this world in the form of a festival and celebration for the world of spirits and spirit beings. Adorning it with the wondrous embroideries of all His names, He clothes each spirit, great or small, elevated or lowly, in a body decked out with senses, suitable to it, and appropriate for benefiting from the innumerable various good things and bounties in the festival. He gives each a corporeal being and sends it to the spectacle once. And he divides the festival, which is most extensive in regard to both time and space, into centuries, years, seasons, and even days and their parts, and makes them all exalted festivals in the form of parades for all the groups of his creatures with spirits and for his plants and vegetable artifacts. Especially the phase of the earth in spring and summer, it's a series of festivals for the groups of small beings so glittering, it draws the gaze of the spirit beings and angels and the dwellers of the heavens and the high levels of the earth. For those who think and contemplate, it's a place for reflection so wonderful, the mind is powerless to describe it. But in the face of the manifestation of the divine names of most merciful and giver of life, in this divine feast and Dominical festival, the names of subduer and dealer of death appear with death and separation, and this is apparently unconformable with the all-embracing mercy of my mercy encompasses all things.
So going back to your comment, I'm trying to see what was the problem that you were trying to resolve? Because so after you read the Arabic version and the translated, I didn't get how it was different than here.
Yeah, it makes sense. The translation makes sense after reading the Arabic one. But when I was first reading it, it sounds like the beautification is made for the earth.
Oh, for the okay. So it's, I guess.
So it was a literal translation, I guess, in this sense. This is why it was initially troubling.
After reading the first paragraph, don't you think actually it really makes sense to refer back to the earth, or maybe even the universe in general? Because here he talked about the world of spirits and spirit beings, angels, dwellers of heavens, and so whatever the meaning or the beauty or the establishment that you observe on earth or in the creation, so it doesn't necessarily just refer to man. It refers to, like, based on the first paragraph, it refers to all the conscious beings in the creation.
Yes.
And those, like, conscious being, I think, referred like all together as an earth. Makes sense?
And if you take Earth as a globe, the globe of Earth, are you taking it as a globe of Earth?
No, like I think, like, more I see it as in the creation, the existence itself, not necessarily just the like ours.
Because, I mean, looking at the way that I read the first paragraph is as if he is explaining this beautification is for that purpose, for showing, for a feast, as a parade, as the manifestation of names.
Mm-hmm.
So, which maybe looks more to why this beautification is for. So, I don't know why for Earth becomes unnecessary in this sense. I don't know if, am I nitpicking?
No, I guess, yeah, it could be something like we have made as a glittering show which beautifies the earth, or something like that. Yeah, because in the remaining it says it gives the purpose. It's not as a glittering show so that the earth enjoy, but it says in order that we may test them. So this is the purpose of this.
So, like, if you are to replace the word earth with something else, what would you put in place of it?
No, I'm also questioning in the verse, what is the purpose of putting laha in there, and in the translation for the earth in the translation as well? Because I do not see this part in the explanation that he put down.
I guess it's just like the, how to say, structure of the phrase. It says zinatan laha, meaning like we beautifying it. So this is zinat for you, for instance. If I say it, means like you will put it. So we put all this, whatever we created on earth, it is there so that it beautifies the earth. And then he explains the purpose in order that we test them. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think there's something special with this zinat al-lahab.
Isn't that like subject and object at the same time? Like these embellishments are manifested on you, but at the same time you are the spectator of those embellishments in the others and in yourself. So isn't that the reason why, like, refers back to the beings? Because, like, if you think of the existence as a whole, it's all different manifestations of the names. But at the same time, each being in the creation is also a conscious being that is, or like, if you think about it in terms of the angels, there is a conscious being that is the spectator or the observant of all the beauty. It's like it seems like it's a two-way street.
Okay. Yeah, we can.
So the first part, the first sentence, all compassionate creator, munificent provider, all wise maker. I guess all these kind of give us a sense of purpose. Everything, whatever comes next, it will explain a purpose. It will be a purposeful act. He does it to provide something, and he does it out of compassion. And all wise maker, again, he knows what he's doing. And he's also referring him as maker. So whatever is there, you will see on earth, it's being made. I guess these qualities or names kind of prepare us to interpret what we see on the earth. So whatever you see, you try to see them as a product of or action of all compassionate creator, munificent provider, and all wise maker. I guess it will change things a little bit if we filter them through these names. Maker made this world in the form of festival and celebration for the world of spirits and spirit beings, adorning it with the wondrous embroideries of all his names. So I guess this part refers to this glittering show or beautifying Zinat part, adorning it with the wondrous embroideries of all his names. That's maybe we should discuss, like what does it mean embroideries of all his names. He clothes each spirit, great or small, elevated or lowly, in a body decked out with senses suitable to it and appropriate for benefiting from the innumerable various good things and bounties in the festival. That is very interesting, I guess, approach. He says he creates all these beauty, pleasures, and then give you some capacities so that you can sense them, interact with them, realize them, and appreciate them. Of course, if we start from our own perspective, I guess, we would say, I'm looking at myself, all these needs, desires that I have, and they reminds me some capacities that I have. Because when I'm, for instance, hungry, I know that I have a capacity to enjoying food. It's like synonym. Being hungry and enjoying food. It's kind of same thing. A capacity to enjoy the food. I guess we can say the same for all desires or needs we have. And we see that we have some capacities, we have some needs, and out there are things which fit to these capacities and needs. And through these needs I have, I am kind of oriented whatever created there. So there's a food which is created, like there's a pleasure for me, and through my hunger, I am directed to this pleasure. So it's not like just pleasure is created and so left there, and out of chance or something, I will somehow experience it. And also the hunger is there, put there in me, so that they will match, so that I will sense the pleasure there. I will get a taste.
Like in the 17 words, it introduces more like an emotional, your emotional connection with the being. When it says like glittering show, to me like that directly tells me something that's like the things that you enjoy and love.
Yes.
That you are attached in your heart, you are attached to those things.
I guess one question, related to what you said, that I find myself attracted by these beauties, so-called beauties. I mean, I call them beautiful because I'm attracted to them. Otherwise, if you ask me what is beauty, I cannot even define that. I don't define it.
By nature, you just connected to it.
I am attracted to something and I call it beautiful. And I find myself in that way. But there are things created outside me, external things, and I find myself attracted to them. I guess this is very interesting, right? I mean, with cheer, for instance, at least from as an outside observer, I don't see that cheer is attracted to something, but I am attracted to something. It's an interesting relationship we have with these things, that we care about them, we want them, we enjoy them. It's not something that can be taken granted. The fact that I enjoy things, or the fact that I want things, or I feel sorry when I don't get them, it's not something we can take it as granted. Just the fact that I have such kind of relationship with things, forget about whether I'm sustained or not. Even though just because I have such a relationship with things, it's by itself is a huge question. Like, how?
Your test starts. That's the core of in the following part of the verse says, and we may test them as to which of them are the best in combat.
I would say that even this realization that I have such a relationship with objects, with things, is a part of task line. Because obviously not everyone asking these questions. Or let's forget about the others, not all the time I'm asking these questions. Most of the time I'm forgetful, I just take them as granted. I even take them as right to complain. Like when I'm hungry, and if there's no food, I use it as an excuse to complain. I say that I'm hungry, so why food is not there? As if I have to be sustained.
I think this verse almost like emotional aspect of human being in terms of like cause and effect relationship, or like it deals with the cause and effect relationship from an emotional aspect. Because when you say, okay, like this like flow cannot be there, like if like there must be a cause for it, and the cause is like, let's say, like the leaves or the fabric, whatever. This is more like an intellectual reasoning. There is nothing much like emotion involved there. It's because like 1 and 0. That's how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when the verse talks about glittering show or earth, and then like it is your test. That's where the like true like application of cause and effect relationship. Like you are like emotionally connected to the things, you love them, you enjoy the beauty, like or in any form and like shape. But how do you read them? Do you read them in the like in the name of their creator, or you just like take it like as in the causal relationship and you just attach to the things themselves? That's where the test is. That's like so which are in best in contact, like that's where what makes the difference, like whether you are in press in contact or not, whether you read it like in the like name of the creator or not. Makes sense? Like it's more like breaking that causal relationship with the beings and directing that emotional, let's say whatever it is, like to the attachment to the, like the giver or the maker of the things. I think that's the reason why, like maybe second part like mentions about really what's on earth, like we shall make what as dust and dry soil, because like when you attach like the things themselves, like everything is transient, everything is dying away, nothing stays still, everything is getting old. They do not sustain that emotions.
So he says, adorning it with the wondrous embroideries of all his names. So starting from our perspective, do we see creation in that way? Adorned by embroideries of beautiful names?
That's what I'm saying, that's what that's this.
Yeah, because I guess what you were referring as reading in the name of creation. This is why looking for Arabic translation.
We are stuck with the word.
I'm trying to see how he ended up interpreting this verse like that.
So how would you?
I think.
How would you start? I mean,
I don't know.
Well, why is it so puzzling for you? That like.
So.
I mean, like, or what do you think is so like disconnected, like verses versus the text?
Well, maybe it's not. It sounds very generic. This is why maybe I am looking for something specific.
What was the generic verse or the text?
In his explanations, I guess my mindset get used to just putting some verses as a cover-up story. So what I would expect from the author is when he read this verse, he was shaken. This is what came to his mind, having so much of a strong relation between them. And since for me this verse and this text doesn't really have this much of a relation, it's what I am trying to see. Maybe, I mean, the relation might be there, but it's not that apparent to me.
It's kind of like that. Usually, like with text and make connections with many verses together. You know, I have even many hadiths together. But mentioning a few of them at the beginning, as though this is the translation of the source order. Many verses, many things all together.
Yeah, in the text, this is being how it is. You can see in between the lines there are more than what he put to the initials. But I am now imagining how I would do. So something that catches my attention the most goes to the top. So it must carry the biggest message in there. But this verse, when I read the verse, it doesn't really make me that much of excited to talk about what comes next. So I'm just trying to establish this much of a relation for myself. I mean, this is sort of a question of what is the author doing in here, because I am trying to read the author nowadays to learn how he is approaching the verses, so that when I read a verse in the Quran, I should be able to say that, well, the author was able to extract such and such meanings from this verse. That means while he was reading this verse, he had those questions in his mind, so that his answers follows these questions. So when I'm reading such a verse, I shall come up with such questions. Because, the question is apparent in the first two verses. You put everything as a beautifying. For the test as well, then why are you making everything dust? What sort of a mercy is in there? So you can ask the question in there. But then he's also going to extract some answers. Is it like the answers are coming from somewhere else, or he is also maybe extracting the answer, what is the life of this world but play and amusement? So is this where his answers are coming from, this play and amusement parts, the manifestation of mercy? because he is now looking for, in the death, there must be some sort of a mercy as well. So what is the answer for that? And as a placeholder or as a signpost is putting those three verses. So I'm just trying to establish these relations for myself. I mean, nothing too much.
This reminded me when the author talks somewhere, I don't know the exact place, but was saying he was walking in the countryside, enjoying the beauty, and then realized that everything will perish and start maybe crying or getting close to cry. Do you remember this part?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess all these explanations reminded me that you're enjoying the life. You see that everything beautiful. You see that you have a perfect connection with the life, like as if it's a perfect fit to you. Whatever in here, in you, has a counterpart outside. So it's a beautiful design, the best design that you can imagine, and it's taken away.
The way that I understand, like, relation that I can see so far, again, runs the interpretation of your existence, right? And when you look at your own reality, but you see that, like, for example, when I was just coming up here, I saw a Lexus, brand new Lexus. Just like the design of the car, like, caught my attention. Not like how the headlights like usually curve outside, but this car they curved in. So it was like very different. That's why I was catchy anyway. So I don't like enjoy the design of the car. But at the same time, like, I know that next year or the 2 years from now, like, there will be another design that is going to feel more beautiful than what it is, what this car is. Giving very practical example. So, or like my emotional connection with like beautiful grows, but like grows dying away. It is right there. Like, on one hand, like you see the beauty and embellishment, but yet, like, you know that, like, it's gonna perish eventually. So, like, you are aware of it. So that's your reality. And when this verse comes and says that everything is like a glittering show, and these are there for a test to show like who is in like best in contact, and everything will be dust and dry. And when you read the text, like how Mercy approaches this, he's like taking those experiences and trying to understand those experiences under the light of these verses. And I think that's why like he brings up the angels, spirit beings, the names, manifestation of the names, and he also talks about the after each group being completed its turn, whatever, and most generous, maybe compassionate, and desire for rest and longing to migrate to another world. Then he also brings the actors line into the equation as an answer, like to understand like what those verses mean or what they really signify. So to me, I don't know, like it seems like the conflicting part is very obvious, and he's like trying to understand those experiences under the light of like these verses to really see like what is the reality of that like experiences. And I think like angels and afterlife comes as an answer to that dilemma. Dilemma meaning like you are captivated by the beauty, but at the same time, like everything perishes away. So if you don't have the angels or the afterlife concept, I think as Nietzsche says, like this is like almost like a setup that God like set everything up to play with you, like kept playing with the mouse.
You can continue, yeah. I guess I'm warming up with the verse. Sorry for taking your time, but
So when I try to read, as Osman was saying, when I try to read the verses as an interpretation of the reality, like I have this conflict in me, and then I read these verses, it becomes kind of like guidance or warning, saying that you have this conflict in you, that you love things but they are taking away, and you don't like it, you have a problem there. And through these verses, I'm trying to re-establish your understanding of the reality. It says, wait a second, the things that you call as beautiful, the things that you call as the objects of your desires, are there just to show something, just to glitter the world or adorn the world. So maybe you taking them or interpreting them in the wrong way. First, question their purposes, like why they are there, at least from your perspective. What should you take from them? What is the wisdom in them? Right? Why you like them? Why they are beautiful to you? And I guess the first part is when it says, we have made as a glittering show for the earth, it's kind of said that this is what they are. Right? Do not try to take them as something else. They are glittering show for the earth. And what is the purpose of that? You continue, in order that we may test you and as to which of them are the best in conduct. So I guess it's kind of said that the way you relate yourself to the reality is wrong. First, you have to correct this. And you have to see them as an adornment, not beautiful things by themselves or in themselves. They are adornment, like embroideries. You put them with a purpose, so that you can, as author explains, so that you can see the names through them. So that you can reach the names. And then it explains what has been being tested and so on. So then, at least to me, it makes sense when author starts here by re-establishing, redefining the beautiful things, what they are. And it says they are adornment. They are embroideries of beautiful names. Because before I read in these verses, they are just beautiful things that I like. They are things that I enjoy, and this is how I relate myself to objects. But now with these verses, it says, no, they are embroideries of beautiful names.
I think our problem, like Quran's like main purpose is like turning man's face from the things to God, right? And read everything like accordingly. I feel like when like the first like verse is like revealed, the first command is read. Then the following phrase says how to. Then the next statement says what to read. Ikra bi-ismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq, right? So in that, like, there's almost like a formula saying that you have to read, but you need to read in the name of your creator, in the name of your God. That creates the experiences, the things, the universe, and yourself. So that it seems like really that is the formula, like the I personally always keep forgetting. And in this text, it is just another form of that Nursi brings, especially I think deliberately chooses these words, like because from another angle, that he is trying to read the things in the name of their creator. And in this specific case, I feel like he brings the emotions more into the up to the surface. So then, like, it's a complicated thing, and like from many different angles, like we tend to like get lost, and emotions are like the ones that are the most difficult ones to really like make sense and actually control and utilize for that purpose.
So then, can we say that the first two verses is the background for him to pose the question? First two verses are urging him to ask the question. Everything is so beautiful, yet everything perishes. Then he asked the question, how come he is all merciful? His mercy encompasses everything, and yet things are perishing. Where is the mercy in here? Then somehow he's going to provide an answer. Maybe then we can ask the question, is the answer that he derives, is it from the verse, what is the life of the world but play and amusement? Is this the rest going to be an interpretation of this verse? Or he's going to come up with answers from himself or somewhere else? We can just keep that question in mind. And
no, that's a good question. To be honest, I thought it was the first two words, at least the first part, was answer to his question, which he had from his that's a personal experiences journey. That's what I thought at the beginning. Maybe I was wrong, but I was thinking as he already had the problem. That's the reason I talked about this being crying when he realized that everything going to die. I was imagining more like he had the problem, and then Quran saved him by, or like he remembered these verses, and Quran provided him the guidance.
Can I ask a question? What do you guys mean by the question?
Question is...
What was the question? Gürkan is puzzled. What do you guys mean by the question? What kind of question are you guys looking for?
So the author is asking the question, how come the God's mercy encompassing everything goes along with the death and separation? This is his question, right? And his answer starts with, in reality, there are several ways in which it is conformable. And one of these is as follows. So I guess he comes up with an explanation for this problem.
So like, the reason why like I just want to poke you especially, that's why I'm asking like the question. The way that like you are trying to understand the subject, I feel like you want to
formulate it.
Like almost what is the right word to use? Like make it more like mathematical.
I don't like your approach, Osman. I will delete it from the recording.
To me, I think like the question is like not so much an intellectual one, it's more like a state that you experience.
Yes. That's fine. But overall, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to learn author's approach to Quran and to the existence and how he is getting messages from.
But that's the thing, like if you don't bring your like conflicting states, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, whatever you want to name it, if you do not bring those conflicting states into the equation, how can you even like understand the approach of the author?
You will bring it, but think of it this way. Now you go home, you would like to take the book from the shelf, and you are a lost soul. You are not aware of your problems. You are troubled, that is all you know. You are getting bored, you are stressed, whatever. But even you do not know where the problem is. So you take the Quran, you start reading it. And when you read it, or when I read it, either I read it as extracting rules, or I read it as some stories being told to, and I am the third person for the stories. So but apparently this author is not as such. So I am trying to see or gain his approach so that when I get the book and start reading it, I'm going to find a name to my own problems and also find a solution for my own problems. Because the Quran is so much alien to me right now. I'm just trying to get to know how to read Quran. So this is my whole problem.
So we have courses for Alif Ba.
Okay.
No, I guess this is very important. So
And because it is, I mean, I get used to say that, yes, the author has several verses in his mind and he is studying it as such, or he has several understandings of hadith that he is just putting them into here. But when I read Risale as such, then I am understanding what the author says. The author becomes like a obstacle in front of me. I am trying to understand the author. I'm not trying to understand Quran, which author becomes a teacher for me. The author itself becomes something to be learned. I mean, his own ideas. And since he was talented, he got the ideas, sort of. But instead, if he becomes like a transparent glass through which I am going to see the Quran, then it becomes useful for me. Otherwise, he becomes kind of a opaque thing which prevents me to see the Quran.
Can you say from this perspective instead of like Quran is such an elevated state, and your and my mind and ability cannot reach that because we don't have the knowledge and ability to reach that point. But this guy, by the mercy of Allah and the beneficence of Allah, he reached that point and he interprets some meanings that you can understand in your own language, and he is like holding your hand and reflecting on the verses on the ayat in the beings and in himself together with you, so that he can like give a taste of what these verses mean. So he is actually holding your hand and taking you up, so that you can understand or you can experience a little bit what this book is. But otherwise, like, if you are saying that you want to understand the Quran directly as he did, then you have to start from like learning Arabic, learning Quranic sciences, learning Balagha, and after that veil, then you can get a little bit closer to those meanings that he is getting directly. So in this case, like I believe we have to stick on his ideas. Like he is giving his ideas not from his own mind, but he is also benefiting and getting, or at least digesting these meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can go and listen any shaykh, they take the verses, they make the translation and put all their understanding over there. I'm not like against it, still it's beneficial. But in here, at least he has some digested knowledge over here that you can read and benefit, and you can say that, oh, this is how I should actually reflect and try to understand or try to like interpret the things around me.
This last part that I'm trying to see, because either I can take it as the author catch the fish and he's giving me the fish, or I can take it as the author is teaching me how to fish. So if I take it the first way, since he was so much talented in fishing, and now he got the fish, so while the fish is there, why I do not eat the fish? I mean, this might be one way.
Can you say that like he took you to fishing and he showed how to fish?
Yeah, this
and
is.
You are trying to imitate him. I believe like the things that he is telling you, he is teaching to us.
Mm-hmm.
If we can understand and if we can apply them to our daily life or our understanding, that's being a good mirror or being a good student to run itself. But
Yes.
usually when you read, you reflect, oh, this is how Quranic perspective is. When you close, it's all gone. Still, like in here, he's not putting knowledge or think from on his own self. He's in this manner, like you can say that he is a good and clear and brilliant mirror to the meanings of the Quran, and he is teaching how you can do it.
I mean, to quote the author himself, I wouldn't like to treat Nursi as Ibn Hajar. And I shouldn't be trying to understand Ibn Hajar.
The son of Hajar.
So Nursi says Ibn Hajar shouldn't be an obstacle for you to the Quran. You shouldn't be trying to understand Ibn Hajar. Ibn Hajar should be a teacher for you to the Quran.
Just for clarification, his mother name is Hajar?
Ibn Hajar is I guess,
Professor.
he's a scholar. He's an interpreter of Quran.
Okay.
So he says, while studying Ibn Hajar, you are supposed to learn Quran. So if you are...
he is still quoting from other fatwa. These are not his own reflections.
Just to make sure that we are on the same page.
Go ahead,
So,
please.
so in there, he's saying that if you are too much into understanding the book itself, instead it's supposed to show you somewhere. It looks like as if somebody's pointing to somewhere, but you're looking at his just to the tip of the finger. But instead he's pointing to somewhere, so you're supposed to turn your face to where it is pointing to, not to the tip of the finger. So in here, this is what I'm trying to see, how the author ended up with this understanding. For sure, I can benefit exclusively by what he is telling us. And this is definitely like taking the fish and eating the fish. But also, if I can say that, since he also put the verse at the beginning, otherwise without putting the verse, I can put my full trust in the author and say that, yes, this is a highly regarded man. Whatever he speaks is from Quran, no doubt about that. He didn't even need to put the verse at the beginning for such an understanding. I would say, okay, I take what he says as truth, and it makes sense for my intellect, and it also educates me in my life. I mean, in my personal life, if I come across problems, I'm going to apply what he says, and I'm good with that. But apparently the author is doing something more than that, and this is what I was trying to see.
Isn't that like actually it's very straightforward and actually simple, a lot more simpler than what we imagine to be. Like, at least like when I see like or read his like commentaries, I always see like a couple things. Like one, he always takes everything at the existential level, always. That was the reason why I asked the question, like, what's the first thing comes to your mind when you read the verse? Like, do you really just imagine like a American dream kind of like lecturing life, or do you imagine do you actually understand that something more than that? And in this case, like obviously Nursi took the verses at the existential level again, and he read the verse as an interpretation of the experience. And the other thing is, he's always at the center of the discussion. He emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, he is the center of the discussion. He really reads the verse for himself. And he doesn't read the verses like to extract some rulings out of it. He only reads the verses to make sense of his own experiences. That's why I may be misunderstanding you, but sometimes reducing it to just I'm just gonna say the rational or intellectual formalization or questioning may be actually misleading him, because you are not just an intellect. And in this case, as far as I understand him, he brings actually his emotional state into the equation. I know I am repeating myself, but so to me, understanding the Quran, this is the approach that actually he's already giving to you, or to me. When you read the Quran, take it at the existential level to understand your relationship with the rest of the creation, which means you have to like bring your own emotional connections with the beings around you.
Just not to
You are really comforted.
little bit. I forgot the word to anyway. Treatment for me. I don't think, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think Yusuf was asking for a rational answer or rational relation between verse and text. At least the way I understand is maybe he was trying to understand that the author just read the verses and then for some reason started writing this text, or did he started with a question and then these verses guided him to find the answer, or it's, I don't know, I took it as more as, let's say, methodological question maybe, like rather than have to feel the method, it's like, should I start from life and then take the, I'm just putting my, I guess, I'm not saying that these are your questions, but should I start from a, let's say, a question in my life and then use Quran as an answer, or sometimes I read Quran, just read Quran without even a question, and Quran sometimes raises some questions in my mind, right? Reminds me some questions. So I guess he was trying to understand like which of these cases was there when this was written. But anyway, since I don't know the answer, I guess at least to me, what is more beneficial is I can try to understand how it makes sense talking about all these adornments and embroideries of all these beautiful names at the beginning, while he's talking about this, and how it is related to verses. So the way I see, maybe you were just giving it as an example, but actually when you said that at the first paragraph he kind of defined the problem, just like in the first verses he defines the problem and then gives the answer, starting with and this is apparently uncomfortable with it. Sorry, in reality there are several ways in which it is conformable, and one of these as follows. You said maybe answer is starting after that. Actually, I didn't think that way. Maybe I was wrong, but the way when I was reading the first paragraph, rather than being a formalization of the problem, to me, it was like the first steps of the solutions, because he's redefining reality. Is just like the first verse, we have made a glittering show for the earth, like we adorn the earth. I guess by itself, it's something, at least to me, very new. It's not the way I see the earth. I mean, I like things that are glittering, that's obvious, but I don't see them as adornments. I don't see them put there for, let's say, test or any purpose at all. I just like them. And with this verse, at least to me, after you asked that at the first, to be honest, I didn't realize it, but when I read it again, we have made as a glittering show for the earth. It's like striking you with a new understanding of the earth. The earth is not something that you always thought. We adorned it with beauty for a purpose. Like you taking the beauty as granted, you chasing the beauty, and when beauty taken away, you are questioning, you are, let's say, upset. But let's first start with what is beauty, or what is that thing that you call as beauty. Let's start with that first. The verse tells me.
So then if we go as follows, let's say everything is so beautiful, we specifically beautified them, for a purpose. The purpose being that so whoever is going, so that we are going to test them.
I guess there is one part even before that, because the first part is, as Musi explains, and the first paragraph makes more sense to me. Then think about the beauty, think about the beautify, like what it does, why someone should beautify something, right? Because it points to something. I guess that's the first part of why, the first part of the answer. Like even before jumping to this test, so that we see who is doing right, even before that, we adorn that so that they will point or they will demonstrate beautiful names. And then why we made such a design so that we test them, whatever it means. But I guess first verse telling me that there is such a design. I'm not even aware of that before reading this verse. It says, wait a second, the way you see the earth is wrong. There's a design. What kind of design? We beautify them. And what do you mean with beautifying? Right? And then you start questioning, like pondering, like when I call something beautiful, why I like it, why I don't like it. And then through these questionings, I guess, you reached all these beautiful names.
Yeah, but like even before you get there, like this is who you are. Like you are attached to like things like you like them, you like the beauty, even though you may not be able to name what it means, like you may not be able to really describe it. But this is your reality. Like who says that? Like, have you seen anyone saying that like they don't like? They don't enjoy.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You start with this.
But like at the same time, whatever the things that we are attached to, like when they are taken away, we are deeply bothered by it.
Yes.
It is like conflicting, contradicting situation. On one hand, like you like it, but on the other hand, it creates pain in your heart. So this is your reality. Like I think this is the like starting point. Then like you need to make sense of the situation, and then like when Quran comes and tells you that like he is the one who is beautifying it, and they are there for a reason to teach you something, and the purpose is to reach the names. Actually, the beauty, whatever the beauty you observe, actually it is the names. It's not the things themselves. Then you start the process.
I guess the way you describe, and so yeah, I agree. This is our starting point. We like things, and they are taken away, and we don't like this. Right? If you ask me, for instance, like define your problem, I would use the exact same wordings, just like you did. But what Quran says, no, it's wrong. It says there is no such thing.
There is no such thing.
Yes, he says there is no such thing that you like things and they are taken away and you don't like it. He says, he puts in another way, the Quran. He says, no, we made things glittering, and then we made you like them or attach them, sense them, right? And then we take them away, and then again, we put these feelings of dislike in you.
That's exactly the point what I was trying to make.
I know. I'm not like objecting you. I'm just paraphrasing, let's say. And I guess this is what these verses does. Like it takes and reformulates our experience. Before I was taking at, I like them, like because they are beautiful.
So like they are there to change your worldview, right?
Yes.
Like how you perceive the things, how you perceive your experiences. So like at the beginning, that's who you are, that's how you perceive the life to be. And Quran there to teach you otherwise.
Yeah. Before, for instance, reading these verses, I wouldn't describe my problem as, oh, God's adorn the earth. I wouldn't do that. I would just say that everything is beautiful and they are all transient. That's the way I see. But verses come and tells me, no, we make them as a glittering show. We show you something, like we attach you to them. And I guess the first paragraph, as Nursi does, what Nursi says in the first paragraph is about this reformulation of things.
Right, maybe.
Exactly.
One way or another, you're going to construct some sort of like worldview for yourself.
Yeah.
And in many cases, it is something that is false and like illusionary. And Quran is there to like teach you the reality of the thing, that like telling you how you should be perceiving the things and what kind of relationship you should be experiencing with them.
So I guess all these methodological questions really make sense and important. So one thing, for instance, I just, let's say, realized is when I read a verse, then I shouldn't approach this verse with my current understanding of the reality. Of course I will, I have to, but at least I should let the verse that I read transform my understanding, reformulate. Even my problem should be reformulated. Yes. I goes Quran with a problem, and Quran doesn't give me the answer. It gives me first reformulation, redefinition of my problem. It becomes clearer now, and then explains.
So now I'm reading the second verse. What is the life of this world but play and amusement? So it looks like he is going to extract his answer from this verse, or at least this is how I feel about it. And also reading the rest of the verse. وَالدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ فَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. So, because the desire for an eternal life becomes his solution for this problem. The desire for after death, or an eternal life, not only after death, but eternal life is also being put in you, along with the death, which is the solution for this problem. Otherwise, yes, somebody is giving you something beautiful, as if like you are a child, you love this toy, he gives you the toy, makes you play with it for 2 or 3 minutes, then takes it away from you, which becomes, are you making fun of me? Why did you show the toy in the first place? If you haven't showed it to me at all, it would be much better.
I wouldn't really know.
Yeah, the existence of it. I wouldn't taste the joy, so that I wouldn't get separated from the joy. So I guess this وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ. So there's this example of لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ. The game is being mentioned in there, in the verse. And also the rest of the verse as well. وَالدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَتَّقُونَ فَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. So we can study this part, but I guess somehow he is, the meanings that he is extracting is somewhat related to these verses.
Do you want to continue?
Reading?
Continue from there.
So, but in the face of the manifestation of the divine names of most merciful and giver of life in this divine feast and Dominical festival, the names of subduer and dealer of death appear with death and separation. And this is apparently unconformable with the all-embracing mercy of my mercy encompasses all things. However, in reality, there are several ways in which it is conformable. And one of these is as follows. After each group of beings has completed its turn in the parade, and the desired results have been obtained from it, in a compassionate way, the most generous maker and compassionate creator makes most of them feel weariness and disgust with the world, and bestows on them a desire for rest and a longing to migrate to another world. And when they are to be discharged from their duties of life, he awakens in their spirits a compelling desire for their original home.
That was a very interesting paragraph.
Yes, he says after each group of beings has completed its turn in the parade, and the desired results have been obtained from it. So it reminds me like we put flowers so that they beautify, and then once people enjoy them, we take them away. These kind of things come to my mind first. But also, I'm going to die as well. So what is the desired result of me being here? I mean, I don't want to sound selfish, but who cares about the flower and whether it dies or not? I'm going to die. So what is my outcome? When he says desired result, what should I understand? Like, what is the desired result of my existence?
To live a meaningful, fulfilled life
How do you do that?
by reading the meanings of the other beings that take turns.
Okay, let me ask that way. What do you understand from these desired results that have been obtained? Let me make it more general. What do you understand from it? Because I'm not that good.
Desired results.
Have been obtained.
If by default, by nature, I am attached to the beauty, but at the same time, I feel the pain of separation. And there are two things there. One, that contradiction, pain, beauty and pain, that relationship. And the other thing is like because separation refers to an end, deeply inside it brings up another like thing that I have the like intense need of love or longing for continuation of the existence. And when you like read the first paragraph or like based on what I understand from it, desires results would be an answer to both of those like conflicting situations. That would be the desired outcome. So there should be an answer that will solve my problem of like the beauty and separation, that contradiction, and also it's going to solve my problem of or the need for an everlasting or like continuation of the existence or everlasting existence.
And you say through the interactions you have with the beings, you kind of find your solution for your everlasting desire. You reach names, and this is your result.
So like if one can read the being in the name of the creator, then they all become like meaningful messages for you. Your relationship with the being is like it's just only there's one. It's only one dimensional now. There is no separation because separation is there. Like if you take the things like at the causal relationship, but if you take it like in the vertical relationship as in like manifestation of his names, then everything becomes like another like opportunity for me to know the or get to know the like creator closer to him. And since I would know that he is the absolute one, and whatever I experience is just the manifestations of his like attributes. And since he is absolute, the continuation of the manifestation will be there. It's going to continue. So once you have that understanding, that mindset, then you can never really like talk about separation at all. It's going to be like changing the forms and the shape. One day you may like the like X flower, the next day like it may be some other shape like flower, but you experience that beauty with like different angles.
Yes.
And also
Simplify it. So just to make it a little bit more practical for myself, as if the author is making a claim in here, he is saying that, for example, for me, feeding is a need. I need to feed the body. So initially, I am given with this desire for eating the food. But once I eat, and I eat enough to feed my body, the desire vanishes because the duty is performed. So if you just force me to eat, I get disgusted from eating it. I don't want to eat anymore. Sometimes.
No, the reason why I'm laughing. Reznaq must be your real like greatest name because all your experiences like examples coming from the eating part.
But at least he has a name to stick, right?
So, but he is saying that this is a general rule. This is the part that puzzles me in here.
What
For all beings, he is saying that this
yes,
is the
yes.
case. So I can experience it. I mean, this is the very low-level practical example for that. The purpose, or let's say, when you wake up, you have the energy to see something, learn something, enjoy the world. But as the day comes to an end, your brain is also aching. You learned enough. Now it's time for you to digest. So when it comes to the sleeping time, even if they show you the most beautiful of anything, the art, whatever, you say, no, it's enough, I'm going to sleep. So the desire finishes and you would like to die, sort of, to sleep. So death of the morning, you are longing for death of the morning. But he is saying that this is the general case for the beings. Once the beings, conscious beings, fulfill their duty, they are being also bestowed with a feeling to die or to finish or go back to their homes. How can he make such a statement? Is it an extrapolation from the self? This is how I feel about myself, and this should be the case for the birds, for the plants. Is this how he is talking about? And I guess it applies to, I mean, as Osman Agha was saying, it should ultimately apply to understanding the names. I mean, fulfilling the duty should be related to something like that. But I guess even at the lower level, it's something that we experience.
So how do you know if a bird wants to die?
Yeah. So you can observe something like that for, I don't know if it is right to say that, but like kittens, they're very lively. But as the cats get older, they become more boring. They just want to sleep all the day over there. If you just touch them, poke them, they as if they say, don't disturb me. But when they're young, they're just all over the place. They're just jumping. But even the elderly of the animals are being heavy-headed. So they are almost they are getting ready to die, as if.
With elephants, it's so obvious. It's more clear. When they know they will die, they
Migrate.
They migrate to a special region, wait to die there. They leave their community.
They go for a hospice.
Yeah.
So is he making such a point in here?
I think like whatever you say or he says is going to be only from his own perspective. I think that's the conclusion that he has come to. Otherwise, I'm not sure if he talked to the verse and that's what happened out.
And I guess this should be applying for, once it applies to ultimate death, I should also see the same in death of every moment. And also it should even apply to akhirah of anything. So I guess the concept of akhirah is very
I think that's hidden in the enriching the names.
So if we try to put this, when he says compassionate creator makes most of them feel weariness and disgust with the world. So how we understand this for ourselves, for instance, disgust in the world and feeling weariness, that we don't want to eat, we don't want to act, right, as we get older, as you were saying. I guess this is how we experience being disgusted with the world. We don't enjoy things anymore. And at least from our own perspective, we see the same thing with other beings as well. even for plants. Like when they die, regardless of how much you water them or put the nutritions there, they wouldn't take it.
Well, you see that newly flourishing plants has this vibrant green color, but the old plants are having those dark green colors.
I guess from a, let's say, an observational point of view or in practical terms, whatever we experience, we see them reflected on other beings as well.
It's relatable. I can relate to it.
Yes, definitely. So I don't think it's much of extrapolation. This is how I define myself through some observations, changes, and I see same or similar changes on other beings as well. And of course, I cannot say if they want to or feel the same way I do, but who cares? This is how I define things, right?
Shall I continue?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes.
Moreover, it's not far from the infinite mercy of the most merciful that just
First, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Before going, I get to just highlight. I know we read it many times before and we discussed many times these kind of things, but I really still find it very exciting and really important when he says things like compassionate creator makes them disgust with the world. Like even this feeling of disgust that you have, it's not yours. You are given that out of mercy, compassion.
It's there for you to make sense of this
Yes,
feeling as well.
exactly. You feel tired not because of some physical relations of your muscles, or you feel tired because this feeling given to you so that, right, we're going back to the beginning, you read some beautiful names. I guess this to me like it deserves every time he uses such phrases, every time to highlight it deserves.
Since you highlighted something, I want to highlight something too. I have to highlight something too. Discharge from the duties of life. That's interesting, very interesting statement. And also, desire for their original home.
The desire for the original home also, it's kind of implying that you already know where you are from.
Innately, you do
Yeah.
that, right?
Otherwise, I mean, talking about desire for place wouldn't make sense if you are not even aware of this place. And you wouldn't even understand what kind of desire is this. Like, there's a feeling in me, but I don't know what it is. But instead, it says desire for the original home. So you already know.
Where is our original home? Where is our original home?
Oh, he was referring to your.
Where is your father from? That's what he said.
So I guess Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, Quran says. So we are from him and to him we return. Shall we return? So as I recognize that I am being given with those feelings and now they are being taken away from me also being taken away from the earth, then where am I being turning back to? So do I recognize where I am coming from? Therefore, the one that gives is now taking back. So turning back to there.
I think like the other verse, like the technically, it has to be in agreement anyway. It's in agreement with the Inna Lillahi. We breathe into him from our spirit.
You say it again, sorry?
We breathe into him from our spirit.
You're throwing phrases and
Expecting you to
expect
understand.
us to make the connections.
Yeah, you couldn't make the connection.
No, I made, yeah, but I would prefer
I left the rest for your,
imagination.
like for your smartness
Okay, thank you. Of course I made
to make all the connections.
Of course I made the connection, man.
God has breathed into us from His Spirit. That must be something to do with like where the original home is.
So then, although
Of course, like that also needs to be discussed what that really means.
although we are being given with dislike to death, we are also being given desire for after death. So this is how,
Because that is like the way that we quote the death is an end of existence. That is where the dislike comes from.
Mhm.
But if you take the death as like going into the permanence, then there is no reason to feel that way.
because in the continuation of the verse, this what is the life of this world but play and amusement? He says, indeed, the afterlife is better for those who are God conscious. So if you are aware of what comes after this game, then you wouldn't be unhappy with the game ending, because let's say you played soccer, you are now tired, but after the game there's this, I don't know, party, feast, whatever, then you are, or they're going to give you a cup. So at the end of the game, you're going to raise the cup. So it becomes the pinnacle of your game. It's not like the end of game, but becomes the pinnacle of game if you are aware of it, if you are conscious of what the game was for. If the game is for game itself, then you say, oh, it's coming to an end. But if you say the game has a purpose which is to be attained after the game finishes, or by playing the game we are going to attain something, then you look forward to the end of the game, if you are conscious. Those that have this consciousness, taqwa. So I guess this is why, as you were saying, akhirah plays a key role in here. I can feel the mercy aspect in death if I am conscious about akhirah. And also if I am conscious about this life being a game for after life, or for the end of it.
Something very, very practical. Like if one can live with that understanding, then this world becomes truly a game that you would be completely free from any kind of stress. But any kind of stress.
Except winning the game.
No, even like you wouldn't be in that kind of like, you wouldn't have that kind of concern winning the game or anything like that. You would just truly enjoy your life. Like, you wouldn't take any kind of events as a source of stress, because your dealings with it is different.
No, I guess this is just
So like that's
ultimate goal.
that's where really true peace is. Like like there was this like huzur Islam'da,
Peace in Islam.
peace in Islam. Outwardly, when you look at the so-called like non-Islamic or Muslim words, we don't see much peace, because we don't really know we don't really like truly understand what it really means. Where the peace coming from. Some last.
So we have 2-3 minutes. Any suggestion?
There's no point to like read any further.
We can stop here. It doesn't matter. As most of the time we take extra minutes. Now we can finish a few minutes early. It doesn't matter much. Any comments? Any questions? I explained our lady participants, I'm talking in general, contribute a little bit more asking questions, like making comments, but it's just my personal expectation.
I guess due to last week's comment, she decided to contribute in a different way.
We will see, inshallah. We will see after the discussion. So let's finish them, and then we can continue off the record, inshallah.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين.